What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new episode of the 8 Below Show. Welcome everyone to 8 Below. Thanks for being here, guys, to the best gaming-related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. So guys, I want to talk about Ghost Recon and kind of the history of this gaming franchise, but also kind of what happened to Ghost Recon, because we've been talking on the channel quite a bit now about different series that were doing so well in the past and then all of a sudden end up having one bad title or a couple of bad titles, and now the entire series is in jeopardy of really continuing. So let's talk about what happened here with Ghost Recon. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, guys, a franchise that I think when you look at it as a whole, it's got to be one of the most popular in the Tom Clancy, games out there, between like Rainbow Six and Splinter Cell, and of course now The Division. And all of these games, though, guys, are pretty wildly popular. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, though, this dates back to 2001, and we had a number of titles, guys. I mean, you're looking at, some of these obviously were just kind of side stories and DLC and things of that nature for Ghost Recon. But I really got into this franchise, guys, and Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter, which in my personal opinion, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a pretty good game, very different. I really liked some of the concepts they had for Advanced Warfighter. And then the second one came out, I didn't like it quite as much. But all in all, guys, this was a franchise that was kind of beyond its time when it came to like the futuristic warfare, like games similar like Call of Duty and games of that nature like Titanfall, that were more of like these futuristic shooters, obviously with the jetpacks and stuff, but Advanced Warfighter and Ghost Recon wasn't necessarily like that, but a lot of the advanced like tech and gear and weaponry that you were using, which was something that was really cool about this franchise. Then of course, guys, I mean, everything was going decent. I mean, if you look at, the Metacritic scores, the reception based around most of these games, they did pretty well. I mean, there were a couple that didn't do that well overall, like Ghost Recon 2 didn't do very well as far as the Metacritic scores are concerned. But all in all, guys, overall, when you look at all of these different games, the one that is a glaring issue was obviously the most recent game, that being Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And this can be for a number of reasons, guys, why this game did so bad. There's a whole slate of stuff and problems with this game in particular. Because look, when you look at all these games, I mean, I believe like Ghost Recon Future Soldier, I thought that was really good. You had Ghost Recon Phantoms and Ghost Recon Wildlands. Even though Wildlands wasn't like super great, people did enjoy Wildlands and they were excited about the next continuation. Even though, guys, I feel like Future Soldier was kind of the last really good Ghost Recon game before things kind of went south with Ghost Recon Wildlands, in my personal opinion. Not completely, but then Breakpoint really hurt this franchise in a major way, guys. In an article that was written, of course, by Joshua Rivera of Kotaku, during an earnings call Thursday, Ubisoft gave investors a brutally frank appraisal of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, its latest release, and vowed to implement significant changes to our production processes to fix the game. In a prepared statement you can read online, Ubisoft CEO Vez Guillemot laid out the reasons the publisher believes the open-world special ops shooter didn't sell as well as expected. The new game, released just 2.5 years after Ghost Recon Wildlands, moves the series' action to a fictional island and introduced survival elements in a loot grind that struck many critics, including our own, as an unnecessary lightweight imitation of systems in other games, including Ubisoft's own Division series. Guillemot noted that changes Breakpoint made to the Ghost Recon formula have been strongly rejected by a significant portion of the community. Guillemot also noted the game's negative critical reception, compounding that somewhat paradoxically is what he said Breakpoint wasn't different enough to really stand out. So I think that's very true, actually, that it it wasn't different enough. And look, guys, I've said this on a number of occasions. The Division is a game that is intriguing to me, but it was never like, it never felt like it was going to be as good of the same stature as Ghost Recon or Rainbow Six, but it's got a pretty solid community. And here's the thing. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I feel they moved away from like the Ghost Recon feel, and it feels more like the Division. More, they're trying other things that just make it not feel so much like Ghost Recon. And I've said this on a number of occasions. I never understood why Ghost Recon is being focused on more than games like Splinter Cell that Ubisoft owns, because Splinter Cell has been a franchise that we've been wanting so much. I even look at why was the Division 2 made, as well as Ghost Recon Breakpoint, when you have a perfectly good franchise in Splinter Cell that people are yearning for and really want. It just didn't really make much sense to me, but I feel like those single player stories and even, how you can monetize a Splinter Cell game was something that has been thought about, and they just don't think they can really probably make much money on it, which is kind of ludicrous to me. But Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I feel like they're trying to just copy success from other franchises that they own or that they don't own, which is very interesting strategy to say the least. Guillemot cites Breakpoint's underperformance and the Division 2's less severe but still disappointing performance as a primary reason for the company's just announced delays of some of its most high-profile upcoming games. So basically, obviously, guys, the games that have pretty much been, at this point, been delayed, there's a lot of them. I mean, we're looking at Watch Dogs Legion, which looks really good. We're talking Rainbow Six Quarantine, amongst others, guys. It's very unfortunate, to say the least, that these are games that are like people are excited about, and they're pushing that back because they're trying to kind of restructure what they're doing as far as their operations are concerned, which I think is a really good idea. But honestly, guys, I think that what happened with with Ghost Recon, not only was it just bad reception and stuff, it was also just the microtransactions and just everything that was put around this game was just so bad. And I'm not going to really get into much of like the microtransaction stuff. You guys can look that stuff up on a number of different YouTubers who have actually covered that stuff. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just talking about what happened in this franchise as a whole. We're talking a franchise that had significant incline, did very well, lots of really good additions to the franchise, and then I believe Ghost Recon Wildlands was the turning point. It just wasn't as good as I think. Didn't feel as much like Ghost Recon. It started feeling kind of like The Division, which is not something that I personally really wanted. Not because I don't like The Division, I just want it to be its own thing, and I want Ghost Recon to be its own thing. And so I think that they started doing a little bit more of these copy-pasting of what worked somewhat in the past, but also taking it from other franchises and IPs that Ubisoft owns and kind of implementing those things into Ghost Recon Wildlands. And then, of course, it really went south with Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And so I think what's happening, though, is good for Ubisoft as a whole. Instead of copying, pasting, and thinking that these things are okay to be taken from their other franchises and stuff, taking a full-blown overhaul and really just seeing like what they need to do to fix the problems within some of these games. I think it's very, very important moving forward for these games like Watch Dogs Legion, because a lot of these titles that are coming out now, even Assassin's Creed, they are either being oversaturated completely in the market. Assassin's Creed especially was as a franchise that's they've been making so many games, treating it almost like Call of Duty. And I think, though, that now they got to really take a look in the mirror and say to themselves, look, we need to kind of take our time with these games, can't be going for these quick cash grabs. And I think that ultimately, guys, what happened with this franchise was it had not one but two games really that have brought the series down to its knees. And I think now, if you're a fan of Ghost Recon, I don't think it's all doom and gloom by any stretch of the imagination, because these games all have sold relatively well, even though Breakpoint obviously it definitely took us a massive step backwards with the Ghost Recon franchise. But all it takes is one game to get us back in the right direction and get that incline moving up. But I think part of it is, fix the things in Ghost Recon Breakpoint at this point. And work on games like Splinter Cell and like Watch Dogs and Rainbow Six Quarantine. Come back to Ghost Recon, but give it time. Let us, have some breathing room here. Let's go ahead, get, kind of regroup and come up with some really fresh, awesome ideas. There's probably a million different things that you could do with Ghost Recon and move this franchise forward, but take your time with it. But I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about the Ghost Recon franchise? Where do you think it went wrong? Let me know in the comments section below. And for more Ghost Recon content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. A new game that's going to be coming out later this year, or in the foreseeable future, I should say, is Empire of Sin. This is a strategy game that looks to be something very different, but really exciting, guys. A strategy game based around kind of mobsters, and a lot of that mob era is when you're going to be building an empire. And this is a game that's really intriguing, something that I'm really excited about. And I want to talk in this segment of the show everything we know so far about the game. So let's talk about it. In an article, guys, that was written by Bogdan Mates of Game Watcher, Empire of Sin is an upcoming turn-based strategy game developed by Brenda and John Romero's studio, Romero Games. Unveiled earlier last year alongside a tentative release date, the title lets players loose in 1920 Chicago, tasking them with rising through the ranks of its criminal underworld. So right off the bat, guys, 1920 Chicago. Now here's what I'm going to say about that. I've played multiple games based in Chicago, one of those being, of course, Watch Dogs 2, and I didn't really like the setting of Chicago being the place that the game is being played in, especially for open world games, because sometimes there's just not much to really explore. But with that being said, 1920 Chicago in a strategy game is a totally different thing, and I think that this is actually maybe the perfect place to have this type of strategy game for, of course, like a mob video game. Definitely, strategy-wise, sign me up right now for this. Empire of Sin initial release date saw the turn-based strategy title aiming for a release at some point in spring 2020. That, however, is no longer the case. Publisher Paradox Interactive and developer Romero Games have moved Empire of Sin release date to fall of 2020, using the additional time to further work on the title and add as much polish as possible. And what I will say, guys, is from the graphics of this game, it's incredible. The graphics are so well done. I love even the cinematics that we've seen. It looks very well done from a graphics standpoint, especially for a strategy game. It's looking really well done, and I'll be really excited to see more content and things of that nature based around this game the further that and closer we get to the title. Based on what we currently know, Empire of Sin will feature quite a bit of emergent storytelling. Players will create narratives from the way they conquer Prohibition-era Chicago, step on the toes of another crime boss, and they'll want to have a sit-down, which could lead to an amicable agreement, but also ambushes. If words can't solve the issue, guns usually do. On top of that, the more notable members of your criminal empire will also have their own pursuits, which can lead to them falling in love or hating each other, organically creating small stories as you play Empire of Sin. Now, Empire of Sin's gameplay is split between a management component where you attend to your rackets and decide how to expand your control of Chicago, and a combat component which takes cues from titles such as XCOM. As you extend your reach, you'll inevitably come to blows with other crime bosses. It's here where Empire of Sin's characters shine. You'll be able to recruit various underlings, each having their own traits and specializations. Seeking out the right synergies can make you a force to be feared. And this is what is really interesting to me, is that you're going to be able to recruit different people within the game, or I should say, of course, other characters and such within the game to build your empire. My question, though, is as far as if there's multiplayer components to Empire of Sin, if you're able to recruit people to build your empire in an online environment as well, that is something that I think might be very interesting, to find out as we get closer. Characters will also have access to an arsenal of era-appropriate weapons and gadgets, including brass knuckles, good old bricks, and the iconic Tommy gun. As much as combat is an important part of Empire of Sin's gameplay, you can also rise to the top by gaining notoriety and using your business smarts. Forging alliances, bribing cops, and trading on the black market are all tools that you and your opponents have at your disposal. So here's what I'm going to say, guys. Empire of Sin is the most interesting game, anticipated game for myself at least, of 2020 or whenever this game comes out. I'm not sure if it's going to get pushed back even further because, of course, the pandemic going on. But I'm going to say this. This is a game that is very interesting to me and something that definitely grasps my attention. Look, guys, I'm a guy who loves Mafia. Those games are incredible. I'm so excited for a Mafia 4 whenever that might be coming out. This is a game that's a very different take on, of course, the strategy genre. We don't get a lot of strategy games each year. And you guys know, one of my favorite games all time is StarCraft 2 and the StarCraft franchise as a whole. And Empire of Sin, obviously being a strategy game in 1920 Chicago, is very different. Not something that I've ever really had an opportunity to play in that, that era in a video game, in a strategy game, right? And obviously there's games like Age of Empires and Total War and a lot of games back in the Roman ages and all of that. This is something that is very intriguing to me. The most intriguing strategy game that's been announced that I have very excited about in recent times. Certainly something very different. But with that being said, guys, my biggest question marks with this game are not only with the single player story, but are there co-op modes? Are there multiplayer modes? Are you going to be able to play with your friends, build an empire together? Those are all questions, guys, that I hope are answered very soon. But at this point, we know a good amount about the game, and we know that the game's probably going to be coming out fall of 2020. Maybe it'll get pushed back further to 2021. Hopefully it comes out, though, fall of 2020. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Are you excited about Empire of Sin? What is your favorite strategy game all time? Let me know, like I said. And for more Empire of Sin videos and content, stay here with Zero TV. Just Cause is a franchise that spans time based on, from 2006 to 2018. We've had 4 Just Cause games. Very interesting series and a very intriguing series, to say the least. But where is Just Cause 5 at this point? Because if you look at recent times, you look at the span of time it went from Just Cause 3 to Just Cause 4, and now where we are in 2020, haven't really heard much about Just Cause 5. Is this a game that we may see in the foreseeable future? Let's talk about it. So guys, Just Cause, like I said, it spans from 2006 to 2018 at this point. You had the first game come out in 2006, and then you had a number of years later where we had Just Cause 2 come out in 2010. Then 5 years went by from this point, and Just Cause 3 came out in 2015. And then just 3 years after that, you had Just Cause 4. And now we're in 2020, going on that, into that second, going on the third year since Just Cause 4. And now the big question is where's Just Cause 5? And look, I've always said this. I always felt that part of the reason why this franchise kind of didn't really become a massive franchise is because it's only been based around a single player component, not really a game in which you have multiplayer modes and co-op modes and things of that nature. And I always thought that Just Cause could be something much bigger than that if they were to expand it to having more than just, one game mode. But that being said, guys, Just Cause 4, okay, which was released December 4th of 2018, couple of years ago, if we look at the reception for this title, according to review aggregator Metacritic, Just Cause 4 received mixed or average reviews from critics. The game received mixed reviews from critics, while the open world gameplay, controls, graphics, and soundtrack were praised. Its story, mission design, cutscenes, and voice acting were criticized. The game was also heavily criticized by users who noted the game's regression in graphics quality relative to past installments in the series, in particular pointing out the greatly simplified water effects and flat-looking vegetation. This led to Square Enix developing a patch in an attempt to alleviate these complaints with partial success. So, the reception, guys, from Metacritic was based on PC. You had 68 out of 100, PS4 65 out of 100, and Xbox One 70 out of 100. GameSpot gave it a 6 out of 10, IGN a 7.9 out of 10, PC Gamer gave it 73 out of 100. So look, it's pretty average. It was a little bit over average in my opinion. But I think really, guys, what has been holding this franchise back, as I said, is simply that it's a single-player experience. It's not there's no multiplayer to be found. Square Enix, I believe, should be for sure making this a multiplayer experience. And I think it also affects the sales of this franchise. The PlayStation 4 version of Just Cause 4 sold 16,100 copies within its first week on sale in Japan, which placed it at number 7 on the all-format video game sales chart. So look, it's not like it's not selling any copies. It's certainly selling, but the thing is, guys, is I don't think it's reaching its full potential simply because of the simple fact that it's a single-player story. Now look, there are franchises that do really well. We're talking Marvel Spider-Man, God of War. There's a number of games out there, guys, that are single-player experiences. That's all they are. They may add DLC along the way to continue bringing players back. But overall, they're just a single-player experience. People pay the $60 amount to play a single-player experience. And then, from there, after you beat it a couple of times, a lot of people just move on to other games. This is one of those franchises that isn't even as strong as, say, like a God of War or, Spider-Man. It's a franchise, guys, that's been around for a while. But the problem is that it's more of a game that you might just rent. From GameFly or from Netflix or something along those lines, and then you decide to go ahead and play it, and then after you're done beating the game, you probably are just going to send it back and move on to your next game. Not a lot of people are going to continue playing a game like this that's a single-player experience, and look, when you don't really have a lot of DLC coming out for the game, which this one had a couple of DLC, I believe there was 3 in total. Square Enix released 3 pieces of downloadable content upon the game's release. Daredevils of Destruction, released on April 30th, 2019, introduced weaponized vehicles and challenge modes. The second DLC, Los Demonos, which sees Rico defending soils against an invading demon force, was released on July 3rd, 2019. And the last DLC, named Danger Rising, which features new missions against the agency and adds a hoverboard, was released on September 5th, 2019. So look, DLC, guys, is only going to take a game so far. I mean, let's be real about it. I mean, all 3 of these DLC came out in 2019, and we haven't seen anything else since then. Now, September 5th, 2019, guys, that wasn't that long ago when you think about it, but at the same time, it's like, look, a game like this deserves to have multiplayer. I mean, when you play Just Cause, you probably could see yourself playing it as a multiplayer experience. I mean, what would be so hard for them to make a multiplayer experience based around this? At least co-op experiences where you're going up against waves of enemies or you're, something of that nature. Look, guys, I just think that sometimes with single-player experiences, it feels like a cash grab to me for many single-player experiences. When you talk about games even like God of War that doesn't have co-op modes, it doesn't have a multiplayer, it's only a single-player mode, to me, it feels like a cash grab where you're charging $60 for not a full package. Even though the single player story may be incredible, why aren't you wanting to bring players back to the franchise over and over again, which is what a multiplayer experience does or a co-op experience does? Because you can only play a single player experience so many times before you want to move on and play another experience at some point. So all I'm saying is that I believe that where is Just Cause 5 at this point, guys? I believe that it very well may be something that Square Enix is planning on. But if you're a massive fan of this franchise, you really should be obviously voicing your frustrations or your praises of Just Cause 4 and other iterations of the franchise and telling Square Enix what it is that you want to see, whether that be through social media or what have you. maybe even commenting below in our comment section here on YouTube, and just kind of voice what it is that you want to see out of this franchise moving forward. Do you want a multiplayer experience? Do you want co-op experiences? Do you just want it to stay a single player experience? Let me know what you guys want in the comment section below, but I would definitely say that this isn't a franchise that has been long forgotten, guys, but it's one that I believe if we don't talk about, there could be problems, and there may be Square Enix deciding, hey, let's hold off on making another game. Let's move on to greener pastures. If you don't want to see the franchise die completely, you have to voice those things. And I believe, guys, that a Just Cause 5, with the community support, could come out in the next few years. Because we're already back in 2018 is when this game came out. Between Just Cause 3 and Just Cause 4, you had 3 years. So here, we're going on that third year. Obviously, with the DLC coming out in 2019, most likely we're at least a few years away from it. But we got to be the ones voicing our opinion and voicing that we want a continuation of this franchise. But like I said, what do you want to see in Just Cause 5? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more Just Cause 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV. And with that being said, everyone, I hope you guys did enjoy this episode of the 8 Below Show. And if you guys did, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.